It's the amazing Rico Brogna podcast with your host, Evan Roberts.
Welcome into another edition, episode number 460 of Rico Brogna. It's one of those weird Ricos. It's a weird Rico because it is our series recap edition of Rico Brogna. And while the New York Mets did win the series 2 out of 3 against the Miami Marlins, we record this after a loss. And not just any loss, a loss that saw crappy defense, a loss that saw the closer implode in the ninth inning, trying to keep a game close, and a game that saw, yes, let's trademark it, limp dick offense. The Met offense did nothing. And sometimes we wait on this Met offense. We complain about it. We watch nothing for 6 innings or 7 innings or 8 innings, but there's that expectation deep down that eventually they're going to wake up. We saw a lot of games like that last year. We've seen a few games like that this year. And so as you're watching this sleepy, cold Wednesday afternoon game, as the Mets are trying to win 7 in a row, which is pretty damn good, you're waiting for an offense to wake up, and it never did. 2 measly hits against Max Meyer and the Miami bullpen. 2 measly hits, 2 walks, 4 base runners over the course of 9 innings against the Marlins. And we could nitpick and rip apart the way the Marlins scored those first 2 runs or the way they put the game away against Edwin Diaz in the 9th inning. But the reality is this offense did nothing. And I'm not sure anything was going to necessarily change that. It was a bad finale to this series. Now, the good news is, and the reason why I can't get that angry about it, I can't get angry until Friday night or Saturday afternoon, is when you have a long winning streak, and I do consider a 6-game winning streak a relatively long winning streak. It's not 12 in a row. It's not 15 in a row, but 6 in a row is pretty damn good. It's not about the way you lose that first game. It's if you allow that winning streak to end and then turn into a losing streak. So the real answer is going to be Friday night in Sacramento against the A's. But the reality is Wednesday's game against the Miami Marlins sucked. If you were lucky enough or unlucky enough to have purchased tickets and taken off from work on a Wednesday afternoon and sat there in 45-degree weather, think about what you witnessed. You witnessed Tylor Megill give a start that I don't even know how to grade it. He starts the game off by throwing 8 pitches out of the strike zone in a row. The audible groan at Citi Field was loud. He then settles down and gets through a first inning in which he threw what felt like 150 pitches. And unfortunately, as Megill fought through that first inning, and at this point, I'm watching the game with Tiki Barber. We're not quite on the air yet. One of the pains in the asses of a 1 o'clock Met game is not scoring it, not able to watch every single pitch. But certainly over the first 2 innings we did because we weren't on the air yet. But as that first inning ended, I turned to Tiki and I said, he ain't long for the world. Like, unfortunately, Tylor Megill is going to need real economical innings to make this a 5 or 6 inning performance. And that's not even asking a lot, even though that's the world we now live in which the New York Mets have had 2 starts. You know what? They've had 1 start go 5 2/3 innings. They've had 2 other starts go 5 1/3 innings. They had 1 start go 6 innings, and they've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 go less than 5 innings. So this is not exactly a rotation that takes you deep into games. And even with Megill getting through the first inning and even getting through the second inning, his pitch count was so ridiculously high, you knew 2 things were going to happen. This was so predictable from a mile away. Number one, he's not going to be able to go deep into the game. That's obvious with the pitch count as high as it was. And the second thing was he's going to run out of gas and he's going to give up runs in his final inning. So Megill labors through the first 2 innings and then actually did a pretty good job of keeping the pitch count relatively economic, still putting guys on base, but getting through innings until we get to the 5th inning. And the 5th inning was going to be his bugaboo, and the 5th inning was going to also be that moment where Carlos Mendoza was going to have to decide, how much do I want to push him? You have an off day the next day on Thursday. I think Mendy has done an utterly brilliant job of handling this bullpen, especially considering they don't get a lot of innings out of their starting pitching. I'm going to give you some specific examples of that coming up later in this episode. But I thought what was going to be really challenging for Mendy is, when do you pull him? You are now 3rd time around the batting order. The pitch count is in the 80s. It's a 0-0 game because the offense did nothing and couldn't even get a base runner at this point, or a base hit, I should say, against Max Meyer. So he gives up the base hit to Kyle Stowers. Again, third time around the batting order. And I'm trying to manage along while doing a radio show. So how do you somehow talk simultaneously about the Knicks losing a meaningless game and Shedeur Sanders being drafted possibly 3, possibly later, versus handling Tyler McGill? But when he gave up the base hit to Kyle Stowers, I was not ready to take him out of the game. When Jonah Bride hit that ground ball to Beatty, and it wasn't the easiest play in the world, but Beatty was able to run it down and then makes this horrific throw to second base. Horrific. Beatty has played mostly decent defense at second base. That was a horrendous throw. Luckily, it was backed up by Vientos. So really, if you think about it, you're not turning a double play on that. It should be runner on first, 1 out. That's what it should be. And at that point, Matt Mervis coming to the plate. But instead, because of the error by Brett Beatty, the Marlins are set up with first and second and nobody out. McGill's pitch count at this point is about 86, 87. And what I am thinking while watching this game live is, I'm done. Now I take him out. I take him out because I've got Max Kranick warming, who's been so good. The man's pitch count is already 89. I'm using kind of like some mental, where's his mental state kind of philosophy here. He just got a ground ball that was going to definitely get him at least an out. That probably not two. Like I said, I think it was going to be tough to turn. You've got the mental kind of frustration of your defense letting you down. You're at 90 pitches. There's 2 on and there's nobody out. The odds are very slim you're going to be even allowed to get through this inning. Get him out. That was my attitude. Get him out. Now, I don't know if this is an overwhelming opinion that my fellow Ricoers will feel about Mendy's managing in this case. But as Matt Mervis was coming to the plate, I'm thinking I've seen enough. Like, why keep him around in this game? Get him out. And I think Tyler McGill, or I should say Carlos Mendoza, made that one mistake. He left McGill in 1 batter too long. Mervis swings at the first pitch, hits the RBI single. And truthfully, that should not be the game. Giving up an RBI single in the top of the 5th inning should not be the end of this game. The Mets can still score runs. They can still come back. And at this point, I'm still thinking they will. But unfortunately, now at 90 pitches, 3 straight base runners in the 5th inning, Mendy takes him out for Max Kranick, and Max Kranick was awesome. He comes in, he strikes out Dane Myers, he gets Griffin Conine to pop up, and then unfortunately, Nick Fortes hits a freaking little blooper. And I put this a little bit on Brandon Nimmo because off the bat, that ball felt like it was in the air for an hour, and it felt like Nimmo should have made that play. Instead, it falls in front of Brandon Nimmo, and 1-0 becomes 2-0, and with the way this offense looked, that felt like 9 runs. But again, shouldn't be the game. That shouldn't be it. Because the Met bullpen, like it's been doing all season long, did a great job of keeping the game close. Kranick, after that blue pit, gives up nothing else, gets through the rest of the 5th inning, pitches a 1-2-3 6th inning. Ryan Stanek comes in, pitches a clean 7th inning. Huascar Brazaban, remember, gave up the home run a day earlier, a rare back-to-back from a Met reliever, and he comes in and pitches a scoreless inning. It is 2-0. The Met offense gets absolutely nothing going against Max Meyer and the Marlin bullpen. And really the only hiccup to the Met bullpen keeping this close was Edwin Diaz in the 9th inning. And here's where I stand on Edwin Diaz. His velocity was down. So let's just get it out of the way. It is what it is. That fastball was sitting at about 94, 95. We've seen it mostly at 97. That's where we saw it a few days ago when he pitched that back-to-back against the Toronto Blue Jays. Mendy, what I like about Carlos, despite my criticism of the way he handled McGill in this game, is I love him after games because he's honest. Buck Showalter, I never felt was very honest. Carlos Mendoza's honest. And so early in his press conference, he's asked about the weather affecting the bats. And he looks in the camera and says, no, it did not affect the bats. So I love that right off the top. Disarms me as a Met fan because Mendoza is not going to make excuses for why the offense did nothing. He says, no, there's no excuse. But, and the reason I bring that up is because it's going to get to something about Diaz where I do trust Mendoza. And that was, hey, Edwin Diaz, amongst others, had velocity that was down in this game. And he did feel that the temperature affected basically everybody. And we saw velocity being down all the way around. And so that's why, to my fellow Met fan, as of right now, as we do this Rico Brogna on a Wednesday night, maybe you're listening on your way to work on a Thursday morning, an off day for the New York Mets, I'm not worried about Edwin Diaz yet because Card is subject to change. If he puts together multiple bad performances and his velocity is down in Sacramento, then we have every right to turn the Rico Brogna mics on and say, hey, I'm a little concerned. But in terms of this one performance in which he was bad, there's no defending that. And he was bad the moment he walked Xavier Edwards, because to me, that whole thing set the tone. He's behind in the count 3-1. He throws 2 sliders in a row to get back to 3-2. And then he missed with a fastball. And he missed by a mile. He missed way high on, I think, one of the fastest fastballs he threw because his velocity went down kind of as it went. He throws the wild pitch. Jonah Bride gets a hit. And then obviously he gives up the bomb to Matt Mervis, and you could just, put the game away. Game was probably over at that point anyway at 2-0. But it was a bad performance by Edwin Diaz. Am I concerned about him? No, not yet. Not yet. Look, there are different levels to this because before we started the Rico, Hoff and I were talking about Devin Williams' struggles with the Yankees and Edwin Diaz's bad performance here. And we were kind of arguing a little bit about both guys. We could put this on the Rico now. And Hoff, you basically said to me, I don't trust Edwin Diaz, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. I do not trust him at all. Has he had a clean game yet?
Yeah. I think his first game was a clean 1-2-3 inning. It doesn't count.
Yeah, but I mean, he puts on a lot of base runners, and that's something he always does. But I got to be honest, I don't trust him at the moment. I really don't.
Well, there's a difference between trusting a guy, having a guy make it easy, and having that guy be far and away your best option. And I think when you look around baseball, there are not a lot of closers that you would trust based on your definition of it. Putting guys on base, having no fears. Like, how many closers in baseball would you actually put on a list and say, I trust that guy? Josh Hader got the job done against us. He put guys on base in every game. Do you trust Josh Hader?
Yeah, no, I get your point. I mean, listen, nobody is Mariano Rivera. We've had our slew. I mean, the Mets themselves can go through the laundry list of top-end closers, even the best ones. Billy Wagner, John Franco. I mean, they put on a ton of base runners. They had their bad moments. Yeah, it's going to happen, but this just seems like it's consistent. And we've seen now Edwin Diaz, multiple different versions of him.
Well, I think what we have to realize is that 2022 is probably never happening again. That was his career season. That was a unique year for Edwin Diaz. What we have to hope for, because then it would be a disaster, is that we're never going to get 2019 again either. Like, we can never get 2019 in which he was unpitchable and he was a disaster, but can he still be one of the better closers in baseball? Yeah. I mean, I don't think we have any data this season to say otherwise. He had a bad performance. He pitched bad when he got brought into a 2-0 game. Trailing 2-0, by the way. He didn't pitch well. He was terrible, but it will take a lot more for me to say, okay, I'm concerned about Edwin Diaz. This was a bad one. Now, when you win 6 in a row, I think it stings a lot less. That's why I'm not angry right now. I'm just more going through the motions. Like, we watched the game. It stunk. We went through the issues with Tyler Miguel. I don't even know how to rate his performance. Both of those runs turned out to be unearned because of the Brett Beatty era. So his ERA continues to go down. But 4 innings is not enough. It's not enough. The one benefit the Mets have had, and it's about to end, are these off days. They've had a lot of off days, which has made Mendy's job a little bit easier in terms of not overtaxing his bullpen. Because I'm going to give you an interesting stat, and I alluded to this earlier, how well Mendy's done of handling the bullpen. So the Mets have not gotten deep starts at all this season. I'll do this lightning quick. 4 2/3, 5 innings, 5 2/3, 6 innings, 5 innings, 4 2/3, 5 1/3, 4 innings, 4 2/3, 5 innings, 5 1/3, 4 innings. Those are the lines of the starting pitchers the Mets have had. It's not enough. And if you average that out, which I guess I could do math on, well, what's it going to come out to? It's probably going to come out to like 4.5. It's going to be less than 5 innings from your starting pitching. Clearly not enough. How many times, I'll ask you this as a trivia question. I do have the answer. How many times has Carlos Mendoza used a reliever on back-to-back days?
Well, Brazaban was today. I mean, we know that. Danny Young's been at least twice. Not Craddock. I'll say at least 4.
3 times. That's
Okay.
it. Only 3 specific examples. You mentioned Huascar Brazaban in game 2 against Miami, which wasn't good. Follows it up with this game we're talking about now, game 3 of this series. Was good, pitched the scoreless inning. That is example number 1 of a Met reliever going in back-to-back days. The other example was Danny Young. He did that on Monday and Tuesday. Monday, he came in, shockingly got 3 outs. Hoff and I were in the building. We did not see that coming. And he follows that up on Tuesday, eating up a scoreless inning. I was hoping he was going to pitch 2 innings. So was Keith Hernandez to save the Met bullpen. But nevertheless, he goes an inning each day back-to-back. The only other example is Edwin Diaz, who did that in game 2 against Toronto and in game 3 against Toronto, which is why he was not available for that first game against Miami. So I find that incredible. I give Mendy a lot of credit because I think he's done a really good job of managing the bullpen in terms of he's got to use a lot of it. He's asking his pen to get like at minimum 12 outs every single game, and yet only 3 times has pitched guys in back-to-back days. So I think Mendy deserves a lot of credit. He's got guys in this bullpen that can pitch multiple innings, but the other reason he's been able to do it are these off days. The Mets have an off day on Thursday, April 10th, and then they're about to play every single day, barring rainouts, for a few weeks. 3 straight in Sacramento against the A's, 3 in Minnesota against the Twins, 4 at home against the Cardinals, 3 at home against the Phillies. 13 games in 13 days. Could there be rainouts that affect that? Absolutely. Now, if there's a rainout in Sacramento or Minnesota, I got bad news for you. They're going to end up playing a doubleheader. So it ain't going to help. Same thing with the 4 games against St. Louis. At the back end of this against the Phillies, they've got more room because it's a divisional game. So the point is this. Mendy being able to do that and finagle this bullpen and keep them relatively fresh, he's been able to do because, he's really good at it, but also because he's got the benefit of that schedule, and that's about to change. So this off day that the Mets are encountering, they're not going to have another one till April 24th. And that will make managing the bullpen much more challenging for Carlos Mendoza.
That's like 13 days in a row. That's a lot of baseball.
A lot of baseball.
Now here's the thing though, is you went through every single pitcher, you went through every single starting pitcher, the innings pitch and whatnot. The benefit, I guess, is that they have the strategy to begin with that these starting pitchers are basically glorified openers. They're not going to go deep into games anymore.
I disagree with that.
What do you mean disagree?
I think that this turnaround, like we're about 3 turns around now, I guess. I guess we're kind of in that range of each guy's made 3 starts. I don't think this is the hope. Like when you say they're glorified openers, I mean, I think that there are circumstances that have led to that, but I think the hope that the Mets have, the hope that I have, the hope that Mendy has, the hope that David Stearns has is that Clay Holmes is economical moving forward in the first inning and doesn't only pitch 5 innings. Same thing with Tyler McGill. Circumstances, plus it being early in the season, have contributed to that. The hope is, much like last year with their rotation, that eventually they will go deeper in a game. So I wouldn't call them glorified openers because that's not the plan at all.
Here's the thing though, and I don't know if we did the research on it today. BT and Sal, BT asked me, "Hey, do me a favor, just to randomly look it up to see how many innings on average do pitchers start?" And from 2020 to 2023, the average is 5 innings. Per starting pitcher. I mean, that's basically what you're getting. You're talking about.
Well, then they're not glorified openers. They're just regular starters.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what it is though right now.
Point.
But let's be serious here. I mean, what are we talking about? We're talking about a guy who we're crossing our fingers can get to 5 innings.
Who?
It's not great.
Who are we talking about? Everybody?
Yeah. I mean, the unfortunately, we don't have efficient pitchers. We have guys that are going to have more off days than good days.
Yeah, I think the one guy in this rotation I look at and say, hey, this is just who he is Tyler McGill. Now, I hope that changes, but I think one of the big frustrating things about McGill in the chances he's gotten over the last few years is he doesn't go deep into games. And a part of that is not being able to put guys away. A part of that is putting a lot of guys on base. I can't say that yet about Clay Holmes. He's only made 3 starts, so I think the jury is very much out on what he is. Griffin Canning so far is a completely different pitcher than what he was in Anaheim. Kodai Senga, I assume they're not going to have restrictions of 75 pitches on him, because if Senga's pitch count gets expanded to 90, his last start, which was 5 scoreless innings, beautiful, is 6 innings. Dare I say he pitches into the 7th inning. So Senga can go deeper into games. David Peterson is the only guy to pitch 6 innings. So I don't know if this is a permanent thing. And hopefully it's not, because it's very unsustainable for the bullpen to have it be a permanent thing. So I think McGill is the one guy I'd look at and agree with you and say, hey, unless something drastically changes, this is who he is, and we have to get used to that. I can't say that about the other 4 guys. And let's not forget, starting in not that long from now, they need to add a 6th starting pitcher, unless Kodai Senga is going to pitch on regular rest. The date I have written down, D-Day, if you will, on when they are going to have to add a 6th guy is April 18th. They can go this next turn in Sacramento with everybody pitching on extra rest. Once they get to the finale in Minnesota, Griffin Canning will be on regular rest. David Peterson will be on regular rest when they come home to city. And then Friday, April 18th is either Kodai Senga on regular rest, which I doubt, or they're adding somebody. And I don't know who that guy is at this point, because if Paul Blackburn's healthy, maybe it's him, but I don't know if he's going to be healthy enough to take the baseball. So I don't know who that person is on April 18th or 19th.
Maybe they make Jose Buto an opener.
Well, it's funny.
Listen, he can give you 3 innings. He gives you 3 innings.
It's funny you say that. I don't think that's impossible. That not Buto, but they've got. Think about this, bro. They've got multiple guys who can pitch 2 or 3 innings, right? Specifically 2. We haven't seen anyone really get to that 3 mark, but Max Kranick is a multi-inning guy. He has started before. Jose Buto is a multi-inning guy. He has started before. If the Mets somehow get to, let's say, that game on Friday. Now, granted, they would have played every day for a week with a fresh bullpen. Maybe starters start to go deep into games. They've got a fresh bullpen. It is not crazy that the 6th man is a bullpen game. It's just really challenging to do that in the mix of a stretch like this, where you're playing 13 straight days. It's going to be tough, because I doubt the bullpen's going to be fresh by the time we get there, is the point.
Oh, no, not at all. I'm expecting a bunch of guys to be optioned, to be honest with you. I wouldn't be surprised if Brazaban gets optioned down. They call somebody up. They got options, dude. They got options. You know that.
I know. I can deal with Brazaban being optioned. Max Kranick being optioned would bother me. That's for sure.
It's going to come at least once this year. At least once. I guarantee.
Hey, you got to use the options to your advantage. It's amazing. We are 12 games into the season. The Mets have not made any roster moves. It's kind of crazy to think about. Let's get to game 2 of this series. That was the offensive orgy, as Joe B would call it back in the day, when they won 10-5 on a game that got moved from 7 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Let me start with Clay Holmes. Sometimes it's very difficult to kind of rate the starting pitching performances. We said that with Tyler McGill. Clay Holmes had a start in which, when you look at the final line, you will be unimpressed. You will look at it and say, not good. 5 1/3 innings, 4 runs. He did strike out 10 guys. He did pitch into the 6th inning, which is a rarity for this Met rotation. And again, only in Clay Holmes' 3rd start now as a converted starting pitcher. I thought he was really good. I really do. I thought he pitched really, really well. Hoff obviously disagrees, because he was spouting out that he's not a starting pitcher. Think about his performance, though, because I don't want you to think I'm shilling for Clay Holmes here. I honestly think it was a good performance. His 1st inning was about to be like this disaster, Think about that, right? The game starts, he gives up a base hit. He walks back-to-back guys in Conine and Lopez. He gives up the base hit to Liam Hicks. It's 2-0. He limits the damage to his credit by getting Derek Hill to hit the ball 100 miles an hour right at Tyrone Taylor. He throws a lot of pitches, and you're down 2-0. And it feels, I'll tell you a message I get on my Mets text chat. It was from the great Adam Eaton, and he wrote, "You can throw out the Clay Holmes Cy Young ticket." And I'm thinking to myself, I get it. He hasn't looked like a Cy Young Award winner, but it's the first inning. And I thought Clay did an outstanding job after that. Gets through the second, helped out by Hayden Senger, throwing a guy out at second. Gets through the third. He's doing this all economically. He looks in the fourth inning as if he's about to throw an immaculate inning. He was not that far off doing that. Comes out, dominates the fifth inning. So from the second inning to the fifth inning, Clay Holmes looks like a starting pitcher. You can't say he didn't, okay? So now we're sitting here, 5 innings. Here's his line through 5 innings, okay? 5 innings, 2 runs, 10 strikeouts. His pitch count was low enough, though. I think it was like 76, something of that nature. So, sure, why not have him come out for the 6th inning? I mean, I was ready to challenge him and say, go out for the 6th inning, third time around the batting order. Why the hell not? But if Mendy had taken him out after that moment and said, you know what? You settle down. You gave me 5 innings. I'm going to pat you on your ass and say, good game. What would we say about Clay Holmes' performance? We'd say pretty damn good. Instead, he starts the 6th inning. And all those base on balls, as the great Bob Murphy would say. When he walked Griffin Conine, he was in a world of trouble. That was it. He gives up the double to Otto Lopez. Finally, Mendy takes him out. I almost think, again, it was one batter too late because I'm careful here with Clay in his third start. Gets the first out of the 6th inning, great. Once he walks Griffin Conine, I'm thinking, you know what? I'm getting him out. Like, why not? He's already given me 5 1/3 innings. Do I really want to let this performance turn into something different? And he gives up the double to Otto Lopez, and at that point, he takes him out for Huascar Brazoban. And unfortunately for Brazoban, we finally saw him look human. He gives up the home run to Derek Hill. I thought it was a wind-aided home run, but nevertheless, the ball went over the fence. It happens. And so that turned Holmes's performance from 5 1/3 innings, 2 runs, to 5 1/3 innings, 4 runs. And he struck out 10 guys. So I think that line is not indicative of how he pitched. And that's why we like to grade starting pitching performances sometimes here on the Rico. And while Tyler McGill is almost impossible to grade his Game 3 performance, I think Clay Holmes was a B-. And I think the only reason the minus comes into play is because of the fact that he started the 6th inning and ran into trouble. And look, those are his runs. I'm not putting that on Brazoban. Holmes left the game 2nd and 3rd, 1 out. That's not exactly an ideal spot for a relief pitcher. But I do think he was a lot better than his line indicated, which is why I continue to be encouraged by him. I am not giving up on him. I am not admitting this is some kind of failed experiment. I think for the most part, he's pitched well. Now, his next start will be in Minnesota against the Twins. God knows what the weather's going to be like there. We'll see if Clay can kind of build off of what was his longest start as a Met. That was the pitching aspect of it. As far as the offense was concerned, major props to Francisco Lindor. Because I thought after that first inning, it's 2-0, bottom of the first inning. It's early, obviously. You have an expectation and a hope that you're going to be able to hit the immortal Connor Gillespie after not being able to really do much against him last week in Miami. Very cool to see Lindor hit a leadoff home run. First home run of the season. Only home run the Mets would actually hit in this 3-game series against Miami. But I thought it took the edge off a little bit. Down 2-0, all of a sudden, boom, okay, 2-1 game. I thought that was important. I also thought that Pete Alonso hitting a Texas leaguer that, and I bring up Texas leaguer because Tiki loves to get into rabbit holes. And he watched that game. He was not on the air the other day because he was on vacation, but he just came back. He's watching the game. And one of the first things he says to me, "Hey, Ev, what's a Texas leaguer?" And I said, all right, let me give you my definition, and then we'll look it up to make sure if I'm defining it correctly. And I'm like, it's a blooper that falls between an outfielder and an infielder, and it's referred to as a Texas leaguer. And Tiki says, what's the origin of that? And I'm like, I guess there were a lot of bloops in the Texas League. I don't know. But he actually made me look it up, and it was fascinating. There was a guy in the Texas League, an old Texas League, in 1900, actually it was in, I think it was like 1896. It was like right before the turn of the century, who went 6 for 6 in a Texas League game. And the legend goes that all 6 hits were bloopers. All of them. And so from that day forward, that became a Texas leaguer. Because that guy, and I don't even believe it's true, let's be honest, it's probably a wise tale, but all of his hits turned out to be bloopers the way Pete Alonso got his bloop that tied the game. Hey, give me good luck over anything. Sometimes Pete will hit the ball 110 miles an hour. It'll be right at somebody. In this case, he blooped it. And how about this? And I never thought about this. So when Pete bloops that ball in a short right field, the ball then hits the net. And my gut feeling was, oh, it's out of play. If it hit the net, which is blocking the stands, that's out of play. What a bad break for us, because Soto has to stop at third. And the truth is, it actually counts as a ball that is in play. So, I don't know. I thought that was interesting. Maybe you guys already realized that at that point. But nevertheless, Pete Alonso comes through with a little bloop. Brandon Nimmo comes through with a 2-run double. Starling Marte comes through with a 2-run single. And after Brazoban gives up that home run to keep it close, you've got that moment that really makes you think. 6-5, first and third, 1 out, Juan Soto at the plate. The Marlins' Clayton McCullough makes the pitching change to go to Henriquez. So Henriquez comes into the game, first and third, 1 out, Mets by 1, and immediately intentionally walks Juan Soto. Do I think it's a good move? I get respecting Juan Soto. I do. I think in that moment, I wouldn't have done that if I was the Marlins. Soto has not been fully locked in quite yet. Meanwhile, Pete is. Soto is a fine candidate to ground into a double play, actually grounded into one in game 3 of this series, right after Francisco Lindor broke up the Max Meyer no-hitter. So I thought off the top, not this moment. There'll be a moment down the road where I would do that. I'm not even crazy about the whole, hey, I'm walking him to move another runner into scoring position. It's more, who would I rather face right now? And honestly, as a Met fan, I'd rather have Pete Alonso up. That's not a permanent statement. That's not a statement I likely will repeat in a month or maybe even a week. But in the middle of April, with the way Pete is locked in, I would rather have Pete Alonso at the plate than Juan Soto. Just is what it is. Can change. Obviously, Clayton McCullough didn't agree. He walks Juan Soto, brings the infield in like a schmuck, and then Pete Alonso, who is playing with such a confidence, he's playing with a swagger, rips that 3-run double to break the game open. And that was a very, very cool moment because you have to believe, even though Pete denied this after the game, said, nah, I'm just focused on my strategy. He had to be insulted. It's one thing for a guy to be walked in front of you. It's another thing for a guy to be walked in front of you with first and third. That is not a common intentional walk. So badass slug by Pete Alonso. And yeah, game 2, we saw offense. But that's been kind of rare this season. They score 0 runs in the finale of this series. Yes, they scored the 10 in game 2, but before that, they scored 2 in game 1 of this series. They scored 2 in the finale against Toronto. They scored 3 in game 2 against Toronto. So for the most part, they just haven't hit. That's the truth. And they're 8-4, so that's great. But for the most part, this offense has not got going. This is an offense that, to me, should score 5 runs a game. That's what they should average. They should be a top 5 offense. They should score 5 runs a game. And in 8 of the 12 games they have played, they have scored fewer than 5 runs per game. They have been shut out, which we saw in the finale of this series. They've had 2 games in which they've scored 1 run, and they have had 3 games in which they have scored 2 runs. Or 4 games in which they've scored 2 runs. I'm trying to add it up. Bottom line is, they're not hitting enough. And when you look up and down at this lineup, when you look up and down at the everyday players, the stats tell you that really nobody has gotten it going. Nobody, if you think about it. And one of the biggest culprits, one of the guys that we have received many emails at the ricob@gmail.com. I could read all of them, but they would bore you because they pretty much say the same thing. But the biggest culprit right now is far and away Brett Baty. Brett Baty is taking the heat. Mark Vientos has put up massively disappointing numbers. He is now a combined 5 for 42 with 2 doubles and 1 RBI to start the year. That is a 119 batting average and a 412 OPS. Let me start with Vientos before I get to Baty. I think there have been encouraging at-bats from Vientos. I do. So despite those numbers being abysmal, I mean, there's no defending that, I am not panicking yet. I have a feeling, and you can write this down or predict this, I think he's going to have a big series in Sacramento. I think Vientos is close. The other night, the game we were at, Pete, he drew 3 walks and got just robbed on a lineout. His pitch selection has been better. I just think he looks better at the plate. I know that's a tough sell to make right now when you're 5 for 42, but I'm not overly worried about Mark Vientos. I am about Brett Baty. Look, Brett Baty is behind in the count every single time. He hits weak ground balls to second base. That's if he's even making contact. He's 3 for 27, and he said something after the game in which he was pressed about his struggles. And one of the things he said, and look, for the most part, Brett is taking accountability. I need to be better defensively. I need to be better offensively. He is, but he also said it's only 27 at-bats. Sample size. What I don't think he understands, and I don't even think Carlos Mendoza fully understands this, and maybe he shouldn't have to understand it. Maybe this is a my problem, a Hoff problem, and a Rico problem. It is not 27 at-bats. It is 640 plate appearances. Brett Baty is the definition of testing our patience. Because it's not like he's the new kid on the block. It's not like they called someone up and he's 3 for 27. He has had lots of opportunities and he's failed. And unlike Mark Vientos, I'd argue, I do not see where Brett Baty is close. I don't see it. I don't see where he's right on it. I don't see it. I see a guy who's probably lost all confidence. I see a guy who is constantly behind 0-2 or 1-2. And I see a guy who's a liability defensively. And maybe that's too harsh because I don't think he's been bad defensively up until the error that he made in Game 3 of this series. But right now, he's not very good. And he's got 2 things working for him. Number one, the other guy playing second base hasn't exactly run with the opportunity either. Let's not forget, Luisangel Acuna is 3 for 19. So what are we talking about? It's not like he's tearing the cover off of the ball. He hasn't done much with his opportunity either. But we are getting to the point where you can't play Brett Baty. Because even though Acuna has not run with the opportunity, he has looked less confused at the plate and at least gives you, maybe it's the false hope, but the hope of actually doing something productive at the plate. And oh, by the way, he can steal a base and play good defense. Now, with that said, Brett Baty may have lost me. He has not lost Carlos Mendoza because Mendoza said after the game, he's going to continue to get this opportunity. They don't appear ready to pull the plug on him. And in fairness, 27 at-bats is not a lot of at-bats, but we aren't looking at it that way. We're looking at it as he's had 600 plate appearances and he hasn't been good. I do have good news, though. I have good news about this Brett Baty, Ronnie Mauricio. Geez, I'm thinking of Ronnie. Poor Ronnie's still down in single A, hasn't even began, pitting in minor league games. Luisangel Acuna situation. On Friday night in Sacramento, I don't think the A's have announced it, but I've done my math on this. J.P. Sears is going to start for the Athletics. He is a lefty. And because he's a lefty, I can almost guarantee you Luisangel Acuna is going to be in the lineup Friday. And if the guy can go out and get 2 or 3 hits, maybe Mendy will be convinced, hey, I'll keep him in the lineup. But that's on him, Hoff. He's got to perform now, too.
It's crazy because I'm about to say something that I never thought I'd say, but I miss Jeff McNeil. Like, what the hell? I'm dying for Jeff McNeil to get back into this lineup because at least I know at least I think he'll give you a professional at bat. No?
It's funny you say that, Pete. I put out a Twitter poll the other day, and I did it for this reason. It was simply, do you miss Jeff McNeil yet? And I gave 3 choices. Yes, please hurry back. No, I want more Brett Beatty. Or no, I want more Luis Angel Acuna. And I give you the results. 9% said, no, I want more Brett Beatty. Those are probably Yankee fans or the Beatty family.
Yeah.
37% said, I want more Acuna. And yes, 54% of Met fans or people who voted here say, yes, please hurry back, Jeff McNeil.
Here's the thing, and I will say this much. When McNeil comes back, Beatty's gone. Beatty's going to be sent down. There's no doubt about it. I don't care what happens.
Yeah.
Because Acuna, defensively, at least you have that. You have that ability. You have the pinch runner ability. You have his speed.
Yeah.
McNeil and Acuna give you more flexibility. So between those two, even if none of the 3 are hitting, those 2 could defensively warrant a role on the team. But it's nothing to write home about.
Yeah. So when we had this discussion in spring training, it was very different. You know, you play 12 games, things can change. I think it's going to take a lot for Brett Beatty to keep his job. He's got to hit. I mean, his value to the Mets, his value on being on this roster is being a productive offensive player because he doesn't bring you those other things that Acuna does, and he hasn't hit. So can things change in Sacramento and things change in Minnesota? Of course it can. I hope it does. I mean, we're all sitting here rooting for him. It's not like we're sitting here wanting him to fail. I want Brett Beatty to be amazing, but he's going to have to hit to actually have a roster spot upon McNeil's return.
Can I say something really stupid? And I'll admit,
wouldn't be the first time, Pete.
No, it won't be the last time. And I've been a lot of bad tweets lately, and I've said a lot of stupid comments in the past like 24 hours. This may be the dumbest, but I'm willing to give it a shot. And I'm an anti-Brett Beatty guy. Why don't you let him DH? Give him the opportunity to just focus on hitting. Get away from the defense. He's turning into a third baseman now. He's trying to work on his second base defensive skills. Why not just focus on one thing? The one thing he was supposed to do, which is hit.
Yeah, I mean, sure, you could do it for a game or two. I think they still want Starling Marte to play. They still want Jesse Winker to play. And right now, those guys are DHs. That's how they get their at-bats. Now, neither of those guys are truly hitting it. It's kind of funny when you look at the Met numbers through 12 games, statistically through 12 games. Pete Alonso is pretty much the only guy. I got Luis Torrens too, but Luis hasn't played now in a bunch of days. It's also not that huge of a sample size. So I don't want to degrade or downgrade what Torrens has done offensively. But other than Pete Alonso, nobody's hitting. Here are the numbers through the 12-game sample size we now have. Brandon Nimmo is hitting 200 with a 623 OPS. Francisco Lindor, despite what was a very good series, and these numbers are actually a lot better than what they were 5 days ago, but still not great, 244, 658 OPS. Juan Soto is at 279, 846 OPS, but only 1 home run and 4 RBIs, so he has not exactly been impactful with those respectable numbers. But the rest of it is Acuna's 158, 449 OPS. Beatty is 111, 259 OPS. Hayden Singer has been a lot better than we thought, but it's 222, 541 OPS. Jose Siri is 1 for 17 with an RBI. That's an 059 batting average, 318 OPS. Tyrone Taylor is 154 with a 308 OPS. Vientos is 119 with a 412 OPS. And Jesse Winker is 208 with a 713 OPS. It's not, no one's hitting. Like, honestly, it's Pete. Pete's the one guy. Pete's got the 15 RBIs. Pete's got the 3 home runs. He's the one guy. But nobody else has hit. And I say that with a smile because the Mets are 8-4. So if you are popping into the Rico Brogna world, listening to us talk about these offensive issues and didn't know the Mets record, you'd be stunned. They're 8-4, and other than Alonso, nobody's hitting. Now, there are reinforcements on the way. Carlos Mendoza did announce the other day that Jeff McNeil is about to begin a rehab assignment, and Francisco Alvarez has. I was kind of surprised to hear that. In fact, Alvarez has a base hit on Wednesday as his rehab assignment began, and he caught 5 innings in single A. And remember the way rehab assignments work. There is a 20-day clock. So based on that, we're getting Francisco Alvarez in a couple of weeks. They may use the entirety of that clock, but by the end of April, Francisco Alvarez is going to be back, and I think that's awesome. That's great. Now, speaking of which, I do want to read an email in regards to that, a negative reaction to a potential Francisco Alvarez return. This is from Leo. Leo writes, Evan, the Mets have been better without Francisco Alvarez, offensively and defensively. The team ERA is insane. And a reminder, Alvarez's lifetime offensive slash line is 221, 307, 710. Meanwhile, Torrens has been great, and so has Hayden Sanger. All right, let me address that. And then he has another comment for me that is unmet related, but we will address it. Take a deep breath. You are right about the defense with Torrens. And even Hayden Sanger. Hayden Sanger's caught the last 5 games, and he's been really good defensively. So they clearly have some good, solid, veteran, defensive-minded backups. But I think with Alvarez, and the key is going to be hitting, because even though Alvarez has his moments defensively, especially when it comes to pitch framing more than anything, he doesn't throw guys out the way Torrens does, even the way Sanger does. But Alvarez could add a pop to this lineup that Luis Torrens couldn't dream of. So take a deep breath. I'm with you, Leo, about the value these backups bring. And I think it allows the Mets to be patient with Alvarez. It allows them, even when he comes back, to say, you're going to catch 2 out of 3 games. I remember when we were complaining about that, Pete, last year or the year before, he's not catching enough. Well, considering that the solid backups the Mets have, and considering all the things you cited, let's not bury Francisco Alvarez, but it does afford the Mets and Mendy the chance to take a deep breath and take their time upon Alvarez returning.
No question. And I got to be honest with you, Sanger has actually performed. I'm not going to say that he's like a spark plug, but defensively, we haven't missed a beat defensively. The pitching is still relatively good, especially the relievers. Offensively, you want a little bit more, but I mean, it's a dead spot normally anyway.
Yeah, and I think Alvarez is in a very tough spot because the Mets have a team ERA right now that's unsustainable. Like, their team ERA is not going to remain in the low to mid 2s. And so Alvarez comes back. There's a couple of bad performances. All of a sudden, it's going to be, can you believe this? It's Alvarez's fault. It's not going to be Alvarez's fault. Like, this ERA is out of whack. It's not going to remain this way. The second part of Leo's email I do want to address. He says, in other news, in your prediction Rico you guys did, you falsely accused Jose Altuve of wearing a buzzer. In fact, Altuve was fully cleared of any involvement in the sign stealing at all. Even as a joke, don't slander innocent people. So Leo, Hoff will cite me on this. I am a huge Jose Altuve guy. I love Jose Altuve, a long-time Evan Roberts keeper, a long-time supporter of him. I got into fights with Francesa about Jose Altuve, about how good he was and how he was foolish to suggest that he wouldn't trade Dellin Betances and Brett Gardner for Jose Altuve. That's a real argument we had as Big Mac. If you guys don't believe me, call up Big Mac in the overnight and say, hey, Big Mac, is it true that you and Mike were mad at Evan for suggesting that the Yankees should trade Brett Gardner and Dellin Betances for Jose Altuve? Big Mac will laugh, and then he will apologize because that did happen. So I'm a big Altuve guy. I do not believe, I'm telling you, I'm sorry. I do not believe that the 2019 Houston Astros did everything on the up and up. I don't trust Rob Manfred. I don't trust Major League Baseball. I don't trust their findings. And so while they did call out what happened in 2017, I do not believe that they have told us everything they know about 2019. And I am confident about this because I'm confident that many years from now, long time from now. It's not going to happen anytime soon. You'll know, and I'll know, and we'll all know. With that said, I still think Altuve is an all-time great. I still respect the hell out of him, but I have a tough time believing that 2019 was nothing to see here. The Astros just stopped after 17. Bullshit. Like, stop with that. Come on. And I don't trust Rob Manfred as far as I could throw.
Okay, my question to you is, who's going to be the Jose Canseco to rat everyone out?
It's a good one. Who is going to be the Jose Canseco to rat everyone out? I mean, we already had the pitcher, whatever his name was, who ratted them out for the sign stealing.
Sure.
What was that guy's name? Now I completely forgot. He was a pitcher, and then he went to Oakland and was said, "You know what? I'm going to tell everybody what happened."
And he was a solid pitcher. I'll find the name, but I do have a guess on who's going to be. I don't want to say a rat, but who's going to be the guy to out everybody?
Go ahead.
It's Carlos Beltran. The one guy who's taken the most damage in the situation. Think about it. He's the one guy who's gotten the crap end of the stick. He hasn't really gotten a job against it. I mean, he's behind the scenes, but like he doesn't have another managerial job. The one guy who gets in trouble for it, or basically was the quote unquote leader in the dugout, clubhouse for this, Carlos Beltran. He's going to be the guy to spill the beans.
All right. We'll see. Maybe that'd be pretty funny. Taylor wants an apology from Pete Hoffman. Hey, guys, I thought it was an insult when he first said it, but after tonight, I have to email. Pete Hoffman needs to apologize to Tyrone Taylor for flippantly suggesting we should cut Tyrone to make room for Alexander Canario. All the Canario hype was overblown and based largely on one game. He is currently 0 for 11 with the Pirates. Tyrone Taylor is a good baseball player. Love the pod. Keep up the good work. That's from Taylor. Now, before you apologize or don't apologize, a couple of things. Tyrone Taylor is 4 for 26, hitting 154. So, to be fair, while I do agree Tyrone Taylor is a solid major leaguer, it's not like he's lighting the world on fire. But he is right about Canario. We all went nuts. Can the Mets let him go? What are we doing here? They should get rid of Marte. Canario, small sample size, is now 1 for 13 with the Pittsburgh Pirates. So do you want to offer an apology to Tyrone Taylor and his family?
Let me get to 327 before I apologize. By the way, I will say this, though. He did hit the game-winning RBI the other day. Didn't he get that big hit on Monday with us? I
he did. You're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
That was him. That was Tyrone Taylor. So and we needed that. So yeah, I mean, listen, he's defensively good, but here's the thing: is him and Jose Siri are a series of better version. I don't want to say offensively, but running the bases, he gives you more. A better skill set, gives you more options to use on the base path. Defensively, they're kind of similar. I mean, Canario had a burst to him that made you think maybe this guy could be the real deal. And I would have taken an option on Canario than a Taylor that we know his ceiling, you know?
Right now, the production in center field and second base is putrid. So I would appreciate Siri, Taylor, Beatty, and Acuna to collectively get their heads out of their asses and start producing better than about 125 batting averages. Let's read a few of your emails, and then we will pick our Rico star of the series. Of course, that is a major decision we have to make, which we have done throughout this baseball season.
Really quick, just to give the answer for everyone who wants to know, Mike Fiers.
Mike Fiers, that's right. Good call. Good call. Tommy Rose writes, some days you're the windshield, and some days you're the bug. The last game of the Met Marlins series sucked for sure, and I'm sure the most negative fans are ready to call it a lost season after a 5-1 homestand. But what are you going to do? As my mother, an absolute diehard Met fan, says, some days you're the windshield and someday you're the bug. Not much to glean from the last game, except the bats will in all likelihood get hot at some point, but the starters need to go deeper into games. Otherwise, our incredible bullpen will fizzle out by July. Absolutely. The rotation needs to go deeper. The bullpen needs to be saved just a tad. But like I mentioned, Mendy so far, and it'll be more challenging now with the lack of off days. He's done a great job of spreading it out and not overworking anybody despite this. Jimmy writes, Mendoza has been terrific, but besides the offense struggling, have you noticed the amount of players first pitch swinging and how many quick innings the offense is putting up? Even today, and by today he means the finale of this series, Marlins pitchers had only thrown 91 pitches through 7 innings, and that's with the Mets drawing 2 walks. How much do you think that has played into our starters, especially a converted closer like Holmes, being given so little rest between half innings? I realize Mendoza can't tell the offense to lay off pitches that they think they can drive, but I'm also not buying that they're all getting first pitch fastballs on the fat part of the plate, because if they are, where are the results? It does feel like they're swinging at a lot of first pitches. I know, Huff, you've complained about that specifically with Brandon Nimmo. I don't think that's negatively affecting Clay Holmes, especially in his last start. Because remember, Clay Holmes' worst inning was his first inning. So there was no issue there. And even after that, he cruised. He pitched really well. So I don't think that's contributing to the Mets' struggles pitching-wise, in terms of, because they're not even struggling pitching-wise. They're pitching well. Like, their starters are pitching well. They're not going deep enough into games. That's the problem. Like, even McGill's start on Wednesday in the finale of this series, he gave up 2 unearned runs, and both of those runs came in the 5th inning on the heels of an error by Brett Beatty. Like, it's not like he gave up 6 or 7 runs. So the starting pitching has been good. They're just not going deep enough.
Right, and I don't contribute anything. Like, it's not like they're going 3 pitches an inning and then all of a sudden they get back on the mound. Like, that would be ridiculous. But I am frustrated with the first pitch swinging, because what is the thing? Push Nimmo aside, other players doing the same thing. We're seeing it too quick. Yep. Pitchers who are struggling and they're trying to jump on a fit. Listen, Francisco Lindor is somebody that he hits best when he swings at the first pitch. Like, his batting average when he swings at the first pitch is through the roof. But I can't say that about other guys. And especially when you see the pitcher struggle, I want to see deeper counts. I just do.
If you look around at baseball, guys have better numbers when they swing at the first pitch. It's a true story. I'd have to go through every Met to tell you the differences, because I'm sure there'll be some that don't. But for the most part, numbers elevate when you swing at the first pitch. The other Jimmy criticism he had, which is something I mentioned earlier in the pod, completely agree. You have to pull McGill after Beatty's era. He's at 89 pitches. He threw 51 in the first 3. As mentioned above, he has very little rest in between innings. He had already walked 3, pitched out of trouble in every inning. It was going to be his last batter anyway, short of a 1 or 2 pitch AB. You can make that move before he gives up the run. Completely agree. Number 3, I don't understand how Brett Beatty got the start today. Again, referring to game 3. In the bottom of the 7th, in game 2, Acuna displayed what he can do. Leadoff single, steals second base, moves to third on Senger's ground out, scores on Lindor's sac fly. Then there's Acuna's plus defense. That was a tough double play ball for Beatty, but are we all not in agreement that the Mets at the very least get the lead runner with Acuna at second, or maybe even a double play? Give Beatty a series off and see what Acuna does, knowing he has 3 games in a row to prove something, but none of this matters when you score 0 runs. I think Acuna will start Friday because the A's are starting a lefty. They haven't announced it yet, but again, going through the A rotation, it looks like J.P. Sears is going to make that start. I kind of agree that the way I would handle this, and let me see what happens, is Acuna starts Friday, Acuna starts Saturday. Give him those 2 days. And let's say, look, if he goes 0 for 8, I think that's easier to just go back to Beatty on Sunday against Luis Severino and say, all right, we're still trying to figure this out. But I think if Acuna gives you anything, there you go. The other thing I want to get to, and then we'll do our Rico star of the series. I got like 12 emails saying the same thing, so I'm just going to summarize. And that is Brandon Nimmo should not be batting cleanup anymore. Okay? That is a consensus opinion. Look at it. My office so excited about that.
By the way, I emailed about half of those to you.
I'm sure you did.
No, I didn't. But I.
Here is my retort to this. 12 games into the season with an 8-4 record. Who do you want hitting cleanup? Like right now, Francisco Lindor had a very good series, so he's getting hot. Juan Soto has not exploded yet, but Juan Soto, he basically gets on base every game. And Pete Alonso has been God and has been awesome. Other than that, nobody's hitting. So if your answer is, hey, I'm sick of Nimmo, 200 batting average, 623 OPS, he's not even drawing a lot of walks, who are you batting cleanup instead of him? And right now, there's no good answer. And if your answer is, I want to move Nimmo to leadoff, and I want to go Nimmo 1, Soto 2, Lindor 3, Alonso 4. What? I'm not doing that. Like right now, with those three guys, I'm keeping it the way it is. I'm not messing with that. Is there a moment down the road where that change occurs? Maybe, but I wouldn't do that right now. The only positive to that is you think Nimmo will just change his approach and say, all right, I'm going to look for walks. I'm going to hunt walks like I used to. He's only walked 3 times this season, which is kind of remarkable. But other than that, I wouldn't mess with that right now. I think when you're winning, it's easier to be patient, and the Mets are winning, so I'm willing to be patient. I would continue to have Lindor 1, Soto 2, Alonso 3. Now, I think it'll be interesting on Friday with JP Sears on the mound. My guess is the cleanup hitter is going to be Starling Marte. I don't think it's going to be Mark Vientos with the way he's struggling, so I think there's a really good chance because remember, we're going to see Nimmo out of the cleanup spot when there's a lefty on the mound, but the Mets have only faced one lefty, which is crazy. Framber Valdez on opening day is the only left-handed starter the Mets have faced. We got you ready for that at the beginning of the year because I remember looking ahead saying, boy, they're not going to see a lefty. JP Sears on Friday, assuming he makes the start, first lefty they have seen since opening day with Valdez, but I would almost expect Marte to be the cleanup hitter on Friday night.
This is my answer, and I think I said it earlier in the year, but I will go back to it. I do think that Marte and Winker give you the most professional at bats. I'm not saying they give you the best at bats right now, but the most professional at bats at the moment. They're not killing the ball. I mean, we've seen Winker actually have some really good moments. I think them in the cleanup spot at least will give you better at bats to protect Alonso, and then Vientos goes 5, and then Nimmo you can put at 6 if you want to. That's what I would do.
All right, there you go. Let's get to our Rico Star of the Series. So we have been handing out this award at the end of every series. Naming our Rico Star of the Series has to be a Met. So far, the Mets have won 3 of the 4 series they played. They lost the Houston series. We handed that award to Edwin Diaz for his 1-2-3 save in Game 2. See, he did have a 1-2-3 inning earlier this season. In the series in Miami against the Marlins, Pete Alonso made it very, very easy. Hit the grand slam to help out winning Game 1. Hit the game-tying home run in Game 3. Easy choice for Pete Alonso. And we handed in the home opening series of the year, a sweep of the Blue Jays, Max Kranick. Max Kranick ended up throwing 3 1/3 scoreless innings, got a huge out with the bases loaded and 2 outs in the 5th inning on Sunday's game, and he saved the bullpen on Friday by pitching 2 scoreless innings. So Edwin Diaz, Pete Alonso, and Max Kranick have won the Rico Star of the Series. I think there are 3 candidates, in my opinion. Before I kind of give you the info on everybody and we decide, is there someone that jumps out at you, Pete, off the top for the Rico Star of the Series?
There's one person, obviously. I think it's Pete Alonso.
Okay.
You could always say Pete Alonso. He hit in every single game. I mean, he's obvious, but there's 2 other guys that I was thinking as well. If you're not going to go the offensive route, the one person we said went back-to-back games, he actually went in all 3 games. Danny Young didn't give a run. So I mean, he bounced back from what he's done previous. Again, he had to come in the last inning to get out of the Diaz mess.
Oh, and you're right. So he ended up pitching in 3 straight games. Is that really what happened?
3 straight games. Listen, not a lot of it. I think he went in 2 in total, but whatever it was. Hey, 3 straight games. The other guy's Ryan Stanek. Got the save on Monday, gave another good inning today. I mean, he's been pretty solid. I think those are the 3 options. Pete Alonso offensively is the one guy who's hitting, so I would go that way. But if you want to look a little bit deeper, you got 2 really good options in the bullpen.
Yeah, Danny Young did pitch in all 3 games. That's a great point. And the performance on Monday was shocking because he comes into a close game. It was a 1-run game at the time or a 2-0 game at the time. I'm trying to remember. And we're all thinking, oh, my God, this is going to end badly. And Young got through it. So I didn't even think of Danny Young, but sure, we could put him up there as a candidate. The other 2 guys I had are actually offensive players. Francisco Lindor in this series went 3 for 4 in Game 1, scoring a run. He went 1 for 4 in Game 2 of this series, including hitting the home run that I thought was pretty important after Holmes had given up the 2 in the first inning. And he did break up the no-hitter in Game 3. Look, nobody hit in Game 3. No one put up any numbers. They only had 2 hits. But for this series, Francisco Lindor went 5 for 12. Pete Alonso went 5 for 11. So, again, when you think about the numbers, they're very close. Alonso went 2 for 4 in the opener. He went 2 for 4 in game 2, including having a 4 RBI game, the bloop Texas Leaguer RBI to tie the game, and then the bases clearing rip job after Soto was walked. And then in game 3, he went a very quiet 1 for 3. So he was 5 for 11, no home runs, 4 RBIs in this series. Lindor was 5 for 12, 1 home run, 2 RBIs in this series. And the other candidate is Juan Soto. Juan Soto went 2 for 3 in the opener, including the game-winning RBI early in game 1. He went 2 for 4 in game 2, including drawing the intentional walk or being intentionally walked ahead of Pete. And then he took an 0 for in game 3. So he was 4 for 11. So Pete was 5 for 11. Juan was 4 for 11. Lindor was 5 for 12. With all due respect to Danny Young and Ryan Stanek, I can't in good conscience think that they're the Rico star of the series. And I considered Juan Soto. I think he falls just a tiny bit short. I think it's either Lindor or Alonso. And Lindor's leadoff home run, I thought, was a very underrated moment of game 2. He got on base in all 3 games. We need him to wake up. We can't have an April slump. With that said, that bases clearing double to break open a game that at that point, after Brazaban gives up the home run, who the hell knows where that game goes? I thought that was a really important hit. And I give Pete the edge. So I do think Pete Alonso is your first 2-time Rico star of the series. But I did want to give love to Lindor and Soto because I thought they made it close. And I could easily make the case for Francisco Lindor because of his defense. But then I could also look at Pete's defense and say he's been perfect. What are we talking about? The scoopologist emailed me at thericob@gmail.com, the guy who analyzes the Alonso scoops, and says, hey, we have to include the scoop when Kodai Senga threw over and it was a bad throw and Pete scooped it. So you in agreement that it's close, but Pete Alonso is your first 2-timer?
Yeah, especially the defensive part. I mean, we forget about that. I think I mentioned it or tweeted it or whatever it was. This might be another stupid tweet, but I think Pete Alonso's shown he's the best defensive first base in the league at the moment. He is so good. He is locked in on all his mishaps. We he couldn't throw over to second base. He's already fixed that. The fly balls, I feel more confident than ever before. His diving prowess, like this, think about this. He's a big burly guy. It's not graceful, but he's diving for balls and looking great doing it and making most stops. I mean, honestly, I don't know what the percentage is, but I don't give a shit. I'd give the guy a gold glove tomorrow.
I think that out of context, people will think you're nuts, but you're kind of right. In this moment, and this moment is fleeting, this moment will end soon, Pete Alonso has been perfect defensively. So criticizing it because like 6 weeks from now he's not perfect defensively is not what you're saying. In this moment, just like I said earlier on the Rico, in this moment, I'd rather have Pete Alonso up than Juan Soto. I know that's going to change. I assume it's going to change. It's Juan Soto. But as we sit here in early April, Pete's not locked in. So, yeah, I'd rather have Pete Alonso up than Juan Soto, much like what you said about his defense. He's been great, and hopefully he keeps it up. That's certainly the key. Are you interested in this Sacramento thing? I'm curious, like what it's going to look like to watch the New York Mets play the Sacramento, oh no, they're not, the A's, as they're being called, in a minor league ballpark in Sacramento, which apparently has had a lot of offense. So if there's anything we should predict over these 3 games is that the Met pitching won't keep up what they've been doing, but their offense probably won't either because that ballpark so far, small sample size, I think I read the other day the over has hit in every game they've played in Sacramento. You intrigued to watch this?
Yes and no. I mean, here's the thing is I just hope the lighting is better than Tampa. I mean, that's what I saw a game of Tampa the other day, and people can't see the ball in the lights. Like, you thought the dome was bad. Like, the lights, it's not the lighting is not great. It's not a major league park. Like, there's certain things that are missing. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's like when they go to the Little League World Series and they play over there. It's these unique ballparks. It's nice, but it's a novelty at the moment. It's nothing really sexy. I don't want it long term. I got to be honest with you. I think it's embarrassing that there's 2 teams playing in minor league ballparks right now.
I think the A's thing is embarrassing. I think the Rays thing is just their stadium got destroyed by a hurricane. Like it is what it is. Like it was. What are they going to do? Honestly, like I think there's I know they're having a stadium issue down there, and it's more complicated. But the main reason they're at George M. Steinbrenner Field is a hurricane blew the top off of their stadium. So I could understand that. What happened to the city of Oakland in this time as they get ready to move to Vegas? That just sucks. I do need to figure something out, though. They are not the Oakland A's. They are not the Sacramento A's. They are not the Las Vegas A's. What am I writing down in the scorebook? The Athletics? Like, is that their official name I have to write down? The Athletics, or is it Athletics?
I thought it was I thought it was just Athletics.
It's Athletics. It's no the. It's Athletics.
And you have to go ATH, right?
Well, I do, in my scorebook I've written down A''S. I've just gone with the A's as the shortener. But this is a first world problem I'll deal with for these next 3 games. I'm just so happy to score a Met game because unfortunately I couldn't score the last 2 games. I was on the radio. But here are the scheduled pitching matchups based on my calculations. Griffin Canning will start Friday night with an extra day of rest against J.P. Sears, the lefty. David Peterson will start Saturday afternoon with an extra day of rest versus Joey Estes. And then how about this pitching matchup on Sunday afternoon, also with an extra day of rest? Kodai Senga and Luis Severino. So we get to see Sevy against his former team. Senga, Severino. I look at this road trip. I look at these 6 games in Oakland. Oh, jeez. Sorry about that. In Sacramento and in Minnesota. I'd love 4-2. I'd love to win both of these series. But I also think we need to be reasonable. Despite the A's being a 5-8 team and the Twins got off to a lousy start, I think if they could get out of this thing 3-3, I said that about the Astros Marlins thing, kind of the same thing. I think you play 500 on the road, you maintain, you balance yourself, and then at home, that's where you do your damage against St. Louis and Philadelphia. So looking ahead, I'd be good with 3-3 in Sacramento and in Minnesota. And then, give me 5-2 against the Cardinals and Phillies. So I'd sign for 3-3, but obviously 4-2 is the goal. Go win this series in Sacramento, win the series in Minnesota, and continue to pad things. They're 8-4. They're a half game behind the Philadelphia Phillies, who beat the Atlanta Braves, so they're 8-3. I'm not mad about that, though. I got to tell you, I was thinking about the Brave Philly thing. I want the Braves buried. I do. Like, it's about making the playoffs. I'd like to win the division, but I want to make the playoffs. So get the Braves as far back behind us as humanly possible.
At 2-9, I think that's what the Braves are right now.
2-9, yes.
At what point do you say they're done this season? The Braves.
We're a long ways away from that, Pete.
Okay, just wondering.
I mean, when do I say they're done? Are you kidding me?
I mean, this is a bad start. This is worse than the Mets. No, last year. What were the Mets last year?
No, I know they were the Mets were 0-5, but then they started winning games. Look, they were 11 games under 500, and they were 11 games under 500 in late May. The Braves right now are 7 games under 500, and it's April. So it is nowhere close to where the Mets were. So to your point, or to your question, it would take a lot. I know you're wanting me to dun the Braves. I'm not going to dun the Braves. They're a 5-game winning streak from being right there.
I just want you to pull a Salicata. The NL East is over for the Atlanta Braves.
Well, here's the problem. All right. And I think Sal has learned from this. We have too much respect for the Atlanta Braves. May not like them, but I respect them.
I know.
Sorry about that. We do appreciate your interactions. The RicoB@gmail.com is the place where you can always drop us an email. I always like to warn you about this because we do Rico's instant reaction Rico sometimes based on the game. So last Saturday, they had this wonderful game, this great comeback, walk-off victory, and a few people were like, where's an instant reaction? And I warned those who listen to the Rico, I'm going out with my wife on Saturday night. I'm DVRing the game. I'll finish the game at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I issue that same warning with Friday night's game in Sacramento. In fact, this one I may not start till like 3 a.m. This may be a record because, again, we are taking advantage of a date night. And it's her birthday. So I do not know when I'm starting that game. I can promise you I'll watch it at some point, but it's probably going to be at 1 or 2 a.m. So again, even if on Friday night, Griffin Canning throws a perfect game. Just wait. Eventually we'll react to it, but it probably won't be Friday night. The one thing we can always guarantee you is after each series concludes, there is a series recap. And so far, these series recaps are very long episodes, as you may have noticed, well over an hour. So it is what it is. But we appreciate you listening, downloading, and subscribing to Rico Brogna. Enjoy the off day, and let's go Mets. Thank you for listening to Rico Brogna.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Rico Brogna podcast. It's amazing, isn't it? Make sure you download it now to keep it on you at all times.